Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Maybe the biggest question this offseason in the NFL, as it pertains to coaches, is where will Sean Payton land? It is very rare, if not altogether unique, that a future Hall of Fame coach is essentially a free agent. In the NFL, there's only 32 of those jobs. And when you got them, you don't let them go because there's only 32 of them. And especially if you're in a good structural organization, you stay and you try to win as much as you can. There are places where you've had that pillar of stability and consistency. New England is obviously at the top of the chart. Pittsburgh has been that as well. New England with Belichick, but Pittsburgh's been that since Chuck Noll. The Saints were that with Sean Payton. The guy was here for 16 years. That just doesn't happen in the NFL. So, when coaches get these jobs and where the old adage is coaches are hired to be fired, it's just so rare that someone leaves a stable situation. But that's what Sean Payton did, and that's why there's so much conversation about where he's going to go next, because it's just like, it's so rare that you ever see a franchise quarterback ever hit the open market. When does this ever happen for coaches? So all of the NFL franchises that have or will have coaching vacancies are going to call Sean Payton. Carolina's going to call Sean Payton. Denver's going to call Sean Payton if they haven't already. And all the other jobs that may come open are going to at least make the phone call to see if Sean Payton would be interested. And then with the Saints, what it would take to get him. So there are, I think it's safe to say, at least eight spots where Sean Payton could land. The ones we already mentioned, Carolina, which has an opening, although I think it's really hard. It's hard to imagine the Saints being willing to trade air quotes, Sean Payton's rights within the division. And Steve Wilks has done a really good job there replacing Matt Rule. It feels likely that Steve Wilks gets that job, although there's been reports that Jim Harbaugh has interviewed for that job, or they've been in conversation with each other about that job. The Indianapolis Colts, that job is open. I don't think anybody is assuming here that Jeff Saturday is going to get that job on a permanent basis. And the Denver Broncos have already fired their coach, and so that job is open. Could Sean Payton potentially land in Denver? We all know that all the things that have been said. Sean Payton would rather be coastal. He would prefer to stay in L.A. He and his wife live there now. He's worked for Fox. He's been in L.A. The two obvious scenarios would be Rams or Chargers. Chargers seemed pretty obvious until they made the playoffs. Now, will they move on from Staley? I think it's unlikely, but considering it's in L.A., you've got a franchise quarterback there in Justin Herbert. That would be the ideal scenario for Payton. I don't think he's going to be able to pick his spot, though, if they keep Staley. I said a few weeks ago that I thought the Rams would be the spot. And a lot of people turn their eyes at that or their nose up at that. But remember, I think if there was one shocking coaching move that may come in this offseason, that would be the one, because Sean McVay flirted with the idea of leaving coaching last year. He has said he is not going to be a lifer. Amazon offered him a $100 million contract a year ago to join their Thursday Night Football broadcast. So if Sean McVay, after missing the playoffs this year and now married for a year, wants to get out of coaching, essentially like Sean Payton did, take a respite and then get back in at some point, maybe this is the time, and maybe Payton steps in in L.A. with the Rams. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. And the Saints have gone on the record saying that they want a first-round pick for Sean Payton, which I think is fine. It's worth asking, and it's plausible. Of the 8 spots that Sean Payton could land, let's talk about probability here, Muse, and we'll just kind of bounce this off a little bit. We'll start with Houston, because Lovie Smith could be a one and done, and Sean Salisbury was here yesterday, and he works in Houston, and essentially said, look, if Sean Payton is available, they will move on from Lovie Smith. And the Texans have 2 number 1 picks. They will likely have the first overall pick, then another pick that'll come later in round 1 at let's see, their pick that they have. Do you know it offhand?
I think it's in the teens. I'm pretty sure it's in the teens.
Well, nothing's been decided as of yet, but it's
in a way.
Wait, hang on. It's from where is it? I can't find it. Anyway, but they've got 2 first-round picks.
Right now, it would be 12 from Cleveland.
Okay, there it is. Thank you. So the Deshaun Watson pick, of course. Would you, if you're Houston, you would trade the 12th pick. You would give New Orleans a 12th pick for Sean Payton in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I think so, yeah. I mean, potentially maybe even a 24 number 1 as well, if it takes 2 first rounders.
I don't think it's going to take 2.
You don't think so? Okay. All
right. And that's just, all the reports are that the Saints want a first-round pick. I know in 2002, when the Raiders and Bucks did the deal for John Gruden, it was 2 1s, 2 2s, and like $8 million cash. Mm-hmm. But that was a sitting head coach. And the way I understand this, again, I'm not telling you I know any of this. I'm just telling you what I've been told, is a lot of demand is created based on availability. So the longer Sean Payton would be out of coaching, the less time he has, the less leverage the Saints have. John Gruden back in the day was a sitting head coach of a team that went to the Super Bowl or was on the cusp of going to the Super Bowl. And that was his last game was the Tuck Rule game against Tom Brady. And then went to Tampa next year and won a Super Bowl with Brad Johnson in 2002. So if you're the Texans and you could draft Bryce Young number 1 overall, and you could give up the 12th pick for Sean Payton, and now you have coach quarterback, that makes a ton of sense. Does Sean Payton want to go to Houston? I have no idea. Does he want to be in the AFC? Don't know, but I wouldn't rule that out. The Commanders, would they move on from Ron Rivera? If you're Sean Payton, do you want to go work for Daniel Snyder?
Remember what Sean's always said about ownership and front office? That's the worst possible place for you to go right now, given if that's how important that is to him.
Unless if Snyder does, in fact, sell the organization, and then you want to see who the new owner is, right? Like that could be interesting, but I agree with you. In this offseason, that seems improbable. We mentioned the Panthers. I don't think Carolina is on the table because it's hard for me to imagine the Saints dealing Sean Payton within the division. And Carolina, as it's projected right now, they'd have the 9th overall pick, and there's no quarterback there. Yeah. And I believe Sean Payton would gladly welcome the challenge, but I don't think the Saints are going to move him within the division. Now, the other side of that is if you're the Saints, taking Carolina without a quarterback and taking their potential top 10 pick further weakens that organization. Maybe there's that to it.
Do you think they'd trade? You think they'd trade the 9th pick? You think they'd give that up, a top 10 pick
for Sean Payton? I would.
Okay, yeah, I would. I would too. I'm curious if
haven't we learned? Like I learned this lesson. Just sitting in this chair, once and for all, validated, never to be disputed in the Bounty Gate year.
Yeah,
I mean the 2011 Saints were the best team the Saints ever had. I know the 09 team won the Super Bowl, but the 11 team was the best offense in the history of the NFL. Like, they were the best team the Saints ever had. Mm-hmm. Sean Payton's gone. Everyone's still there. Everyone else is still there. And they go 7-9. I get the worst defense in the history of the NFL. I get it. Spagnuolo was awful. But you went from the best team in organization history to out of the playoffs. Coaching matters. So, yes, absolutely, I believe if you're Carolina, you would make that deal for Sean Payton. Broncos.
New ownership again, 1 year, fire a coach. They have the 29th pick, I believe, right now.
Right, because they're
from San Francisco.
Their first rounder went to Seattle in the Russell Wilson deal. So as it's projected right now, and this would be in Tankathon, it would be the 27th pick.
27th?
Via Miami and Miami vis-a-vis San Francisco. So 27 is where it would be. Now, if you're Denver, you do that deal in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
If you're the Saints, are you actually willing to part for the 27th pick? I think,
because I mean your real pick in the second round is not that far from that pick.
Right. And if you're the Saints, you package those two to move up in round 1, which
sounds like something they would do. Yes,
absolutely something they do. I don't want to say no to Denver because Russell Wilson is there. It's a veteran quarterback. It's a stable organization. The roster is not bad, and I believe Sean Payton could go in there and win. But you're going in that division.
Tough division for sure. With
Mahomes, with Herbert. We'll see what happens with the Raiders. But I don't think Sean Payton shies away from there, but I just think that there's going to be better options on the table for New Orleans. That's really the question. Who makes the decision?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, New Orleans has to sign off on wherever they're going to send him. It's not just Sean Payton's deciding where he wants to go. He could decide and then have the two organizations negotiate whatever that would cost. But I don't know that Denver will have the strongest offer. The Colts, I think, is a total non-starter. I don't know why Sean Payton would want that job in any way.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you on that. I mean, it's just they have more holes than they do solutions, right?
And if you're
at the moment,
Indy, you're projected right now to have the 5th overall pick.
Which
you're going to take C.J. Stroud there.
Yeah,
you're going to take a quarterback for certain, but likely C.J. Stroud, or Levis or whoever they covet. But are you really? I mean, you're choosing franchise quarterback, franchise coach in that situation.
That's what's so interesting too, though, right? With Peyton is like, would he want to be able to draft a franchise quarterback and start over from scratch with a brand new quarterback?
The Bucs. There's been a lot of talk about that. Uniting Tom Brady and Sean Payton, which they tried to do reportedly tried to do last year in Miami. That's why it's interesting. Would they move on from Todd Bowles after 1 year? If you could get Sean Payton, you would. But then the question is, if you're New Orleans, do you trade Sean Payton within the division? And there's one thing I'd say about that is if you were willing to let Sean Payton go to Tampa with Brady, you understand there's a very short shelf life there. That would feel a lot to me like the Shaq trade from the Lakers back in the day when the Lakers they chose Kobe and they sent Shaq to Miami. And Shaq got his title in Miami. But the long-term winner was the Lakers because they had Kobe for the long run that they did. The Lakers made the right decision. And it benefited both. I think if you're the Saints, you realize if Peyton went to Tampa, there would be a short-term benefit to Tampa, but I think the long-term winner in that situation, taking the assets away from Tampa, a quarterback that's not going to be there much longer, an aging roster, like Tampa's on the cusp of a rebuild, almost like Denver when Peyton Manning went there. They went all in to win. Like the Saints went all in to win and just didn't win. You put any credence in Dallas?
Only because I think Jerry Jones is unpredictable, and it wouldn't surprise me if they fired Mike McCarthy. Do I think they should? No. I mean, I think he's actually done very well there.
Back-to-back 12-win season?
Yeah, but I mean, Jones is unpredictable, man, so a little bit, yeah.
And I think the most obvious one, and probably I don't know if like DraftKings or anybody has odds on this. I'm sure there's prop bet odds somewhere, but I would think Arizona has got to be the prohibitive
Makes
favorite.
A lot of sense.
You've got the franchise quarterback in Kyler Murray. Arizona's got the 4th pick. Would Arizona part with the 4th pick for Sean Payton? The reason they might is because they've got the franchise quarterback. If they're committed to Kyler Murray, which you pair him with Sean Payton, I don't know why you wouldn't be. But
good weapons outside too.
All that stuff is there. Arizona, I think, is the one that everyone's going to circle and say that makes the most sense. And if you're the Saints and you're able to recoup a top 5 pick for Sean Payton, that's your best case scenario because now you get to draft your franchise quarterback. That's
for sure.
That's the scenario I'm kind of hoping for. I don't know. The Houston scenario is plausible because they have 2 first-round picks, and maybe they part with as it would be projected now, the 12th pick. And that's not a terrible situation for New Orleans to be in if you end up with a top half of round 1 pick. The dream scenario if you're the Saints is if you could somehow wrestle away a top 5 pick from Arizona and draft your franchise quarterback there. That would be, for me, I think, the ideal scenario for New Orleans. We'll see how it all plays out. Do you want to make a prediction? Okay, do you think he coaches?
Yes.
Okay. Grow a pair muse, make a pick.
Well, no, I mean, I think Arizona makes the most sense. So, that would be my pick right now.
No one's going to hold you to it because none of us know. We're all guessing.
But before the last couple of weeks, I would have told you the LA Chargers. But now Arizona just seems the most plausible for both parties to get what you want out of it for both. That's where it seems like it works. Houston too, but Arizona more so.
It would be. I just feel like
it's out west.
I really feel like there's just going to be a wild card scenario that we're not considering, and maybe not. Maybe it's all these things that we just talked about, and that's ultimately where the decision is going to come from or come down to. But some of this seems very obvious, and there's holes in all of them. It feels like it's right for someone just to swoop in at the last minute and wrestle it away.
If the Chargers fire Staley, they're back on the table.
Do you remember? It's the same. Oh, completely. It's the same scenario when Tom Brady went to Tampa. What was everybody talking about? Denver, San Fran. Denver, San Fran. Denver, San Fran. Oh, he went to Tampa. Like, with the right scenario, the right package, the right negotiation, someone could come in and swipe this thing away and surprise us all. I think the odds-on favorite would have to be Arizona, but they'd have to be willing to part with a very high draft pick. I'm not sure they will. Can someone put together a package that's more appealing to get their guy? We'll see. But if you're the Saints, this is a pivotal negotiation for New Orleans because I'll say it again, Sean Payton is your greatest asset right now. You don't have anything else of value that you can trade for an asset except for Sean Payton. So you've got to maximize this in the way, oddly, that the Pelicans did with Anthony Davis. I'm not saying you're going to get 100 picks from the Lakers over the next century, like the treasure trove that David Griffin did. But whatever you get has to be something that is going to help rebuild and stabilize your organization. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.